So, I have this dual box setup. I have a shaman and a warrior, and both are like pretty geared. So one of the things I like doing in WoW Classic is just to fuck around with the dual box and see what I can do. I don't use any software. The main thing I'm using is just scroll up for casting a heal on my warrior. Scroll down makes Windfury Totem, but usually I just click between the screens and place totems and move the shaman and use cooldowns and stuff. So recently I was able to fully clear Strat live, so I'm just going to talk about that a bit over this recording. So in general in this run I'm using line of sight a lot. These packs with the zombies and the skeletons are not a big problem, they're pretty easy. On this one I managed to pull an Eye of Naxxramas, so I had some extra gargoyles, but it ended up not being a big problem. I didn't even have to use any different heals on the shaman. I'm just casting Healing Wave rank 5. And I popped Death Wish here to try to nuke down these gargoyles. But on these packs you want the healer to be a bit far away from the pack, because the guardians, the spellcasters, they cast like Arcane Explosion. The berserkers have a cleave and they also have a pummel, so you don't want your shaman to get interrupted. I know which line of sight spots I'm going to be using beforehand, so that's why I'm like intentionally walking into boxes. And the fact that these two mobs pulled at the same time is actually really nice, because sometimes their patrols will be desynced and you waste a bit of time trying to catch both of them. And here I just pulled the 2 extra Plague Ghouls with the first one to try to speed it up, because these are pretty easy. They do enrage, and if they like enrage all at the same time, you can take quite a bit of damage. And this is the extra phase 6 boss, or I don't know if it's only during the Scourge invasion, but he's easy. I was very much trying to not pull the Spectral Citizen there, but it ended up aggroing off my Thunder Fury anyway. And I got the annoying Haunted debuff, which makes you spawn a bunch of ghosts and shit. So here I'm gonna fight the Unforgiven, which is also pretty easy. I went into battle stance on the pull, which is not correct. You should start in Berserker. I'm Fury Prot, so I can't stand stance to Whirlwind. You just want to Whirlwind at least once and then Demolition Shout. And then you can see I'm staying in battle stance for Overpowers, because the Unforgiven, as any melee player who's done this will know, it dodges a lot. And you'll see I'm casting Lightning Bolts on the Shaman as well, just to make it faster. And here I'm just gonna keep line of sight pulling. On that pack you want to arrow the one on the far right. Like, you don't want to arrow any of the mobs on the left, because you will pull the Plague Ghouls that are to the left after you enter the next section. You need to kill this patrol, this abomination, at some point, because otherwise it will fuck you up later. So here I'm pulling Harsinger Forest, then the rare boss. It's the same as on the Unforgiven, you just want to stay in battle stance to cast Overpower. So we're just about to finish the Undead section of the run. The reason why I choose the side entrance over the main entrance is that I just find the side entrance pull route to be a bit more stable. There are better line of sight spots. You have less chance of aggroing extra packs or patrols, and when you do the main entrance you have to go through the gate where a bunch of rats spawn, so you would need to bring something like Essence of the Pure Flame or Forged Active Disc, Dynamite, whatever, to grab aggro so that you can AoE them with Fire Nova Totem or whatever. It's just a bit annoying. So here, this is the part of the run that's more interesting. I'm deliberately placing my shaman to the left there in a specific position. And then what I do is I pull these back, a line of sight, and then once the guardsmen are close, I walk to meet them. So what I'm doing here is I have my healer at a 90-degree angle to where I'm fighting the mobs, because the effect I want is for my warrior to be in line of sight of my healer, but the guardsmen to be out of line of sight, because they will not do their charge if they are out of line of sight of the ranged. You can also just dead zone them, like if you're fighting one guardsman, you can place your healer at like just out of melee range, and then they will not get shield bashed and they won't get charged either. The conjurers are like a bit awkward to fight when you're doing this pull strategy, because once you cast 1 or 2 heals, the healer will get threat on the conjurers, so they will run past you. What I try to do on those is just to whirlwind or bloodthirst them while they run past. But if they run past you, well, what can end up happening is that you are kind of forced to stand there killing the guardsman while the conjurer has threat on your shaman. And you can see here it kind of got fucked up because I didn't want the shaman to be to have aggro on the conjurer. But it's fine if you're careful about not casting heals while the guardsmen are in melee of the healer. You don't get shield bashed, so you don't get spell locked. And here I'm doing what I said you can do. You can just place your shaman just out of melee range of the guardsmen, and they won't shield bash. And again, here I'm just using the 90-degree strategy, pulling, and I can stand on the corner here, and the guardsmen will be around the corner from the shaman. So after I kill this one, I'm gonna get Timmy. So I'm moving the shaman beforehand and placing totems. And on Timmy, I just continuously cast healing waves, because Timmy has... I don't know if he like crits more than normal mobs do, but he has a fast attack speed. I think he might have a thrash or something. But he enrages also, so he does a lot of damage. And since I'm staying in Berserker stance, I'm just continuously casting healing wave. I'm always having the shaman loot all the bosses, because the shaman is a disenchanter. I do jump runs a fair bit actually, and I use the shaman for herbing and disenchanting, the warrior for mining, and the other professional on the warrior's engineering. I don't use dynamite in this run. I really should. Dynamite is really good for any 2-man activities you're trying to do. And here I managed to get aggro on the conjurer. I think I'm gonna lose aggro on one of the water elementals later, but I like focusing on the guardsmen over the conjurers. I don't know if it's correct actually, because the conjurers do a lot more damage. Another thing that I'm not doing, which I probably should, is I probably should be placing frost resistance totems on all of these pulls, because the conjurers have fire spells, and they cast Scorch, and they cast Frostbolt, and they cast Summon Water Elemental. And the water elementals probably deal frost damage in melee. And these mobs at the start, they're not really all that dangerous. Yeah, and here you get the skeletons. As long as you get the positioning right, where you can have your healer in a stable position, the damage output from the conjurers and guardsmen isn't massive. And as long as you focus the initiates, if they are present, you should be fine. One thing I didn't mention is that before I enter this section, you have to have some sort of disarm immunity. I just have an offhand with a weapon chain. And here I'm going to use yet another spot with the 90-degree strategy. Here I'm waiting for the patrol, because the patrol comes all the way up, and the way I'm gonna stand, it would aggro. One of the guardsmen got mispositioned a bit there, so I tried to fix it. Whenever you try to fix the positioning like that, it can be dangerous, because you will move out of line of sight of the healer. but if you're quick, it's usually fine. So after you kill the last pack in this quarter, you get this spawn. I think it's always 2 gallants. They cast Crusader Strike, which is a stacking debuff that just basically makes you take more damage from subsequent Crusader Strikes. They hit fairly hard, but they are not really priority targets, as you'll see later. So I do kill this guy, Malor the Zealous, as well. The only reason why is that on the next pulls, the mobs, when they flee, I don't really have space to kill them before they run away. And they often end up running into Malor's room. So I just prefer killing him. Doesn't take long anyway. He never drops anything, by the way. Yeah, so as you can see, I have these positions mapped out already, and I know where my healer's gonna stand. So after the next pack, the section with the Guardsmen is done. You will like upgrade to higher level. I don't know if they're higher level actually, but just more difficult mobs. And after that, you can stop using you don't need to use disarm immunity anymore. And you see there that I was like very fast to try to intercept back because I got charged, and that positioning could have become scuffed very, very easily with my shaman getting charged. And turning around to get aggro on the Conjurer again. And here I'm focusing the Initiate, grabbing aggro of the water elemental that was summoned. Focusing the Guardsmen now, because the Conjurer's positioning is a bit off. Yeah, so here I should have weapon swap, but I don't think I remember to do it yet. So here we have two Gallants and an Inquisitor. The Inquisitors cast Mind Flay and Shadow Word Pain and Mana Burn. The Mana Burn and the Shadow Word Pain, I think they have like a 20-yard range. So if you just have your healer standing at sort of max range, which is what I'm doing, you won't get Mana Burned or get Shadow Word Pain. I don't know if the Shadow Word Pain is actually AoE or if it just targets the shaman or the other character, but if you don't stand at max range, you will get both Mana Burned and Shadow Word Pain on the healer, and it's just annoying. With worse gear, it could probably even be deadly. Yeah, these mobs, the sorcerers, they are super dangerous. You'll see me move the shaman. I'm gonna try to line of sight this time, do the 90 degree strategy, because the sorcerers are probably the most dangerous mobs in here for this type of run, because they cast polymorph, and the polymorph is really long, and it's gonna prioritize targeting whatever isn't top threat, meaning your healer. So I'm trying to nuke it as best I can, but these packs are super annoying because both the priests and the defenders cast heals on low health allies. So ways other than line of sight to avoid the poly is grounding totem, but that's unreliable because they also cast arcane bolt, which will be eaten by the grounding totem. The other thing is just pummeling, but then you have to be very careful about when you enter a GCD. The third thing is I believe it can be outranged the same way the Inquisitor spells can be. I got lucky with this particular spawn because the next pack has 1 sorcerer, and I think that's the last one. You can easily get packs with like 2 sorcerers. Like 2 sorcerer, 2 defender. The defenders are the paladins, those are terrible to fight. So on these packs where I just have no sorcerers, just priests and defenders, I just focus the priests because they have less armor than the defenders and they cast 2 heals, whereas the defenders only cast 1. Yeah, here I have 2 priests and 2 defenders. It's not dangerous, it's just annoying. We're gonna be healing each other all over the place. Like the only thing that's like mildly dangerous about these is the fact that you're gonna get chain stunned, so you might have trouble establishing initial aggro before you must heal. So you might end up taking some damage on the healer, but you shouldn't die. So next up is the Cannon Master. This one took me a bit to figure out. Like I tried to do some weird strategies where I pulled him away and stuff like that, but in the end the thing that worked best was just like doing it as intended. I just move in with both characters at once, drop totems, and then I just start sundering, healing, and once the shaman starts taking a bit too much damage, I just blast a cannonball. And you have to be very fast on the taunt there, because a shaman or like a healer wearing cloth or whatever is gonna take a fuck ton of damage from this guy. As you can see, the Cannon Master fight isn't like all that hard. You just need to make sure that you taunt on the threat drop, and you need to use the cannons to clear the ads. This fight is a DPS check in a way, because you have a limited amount of cannonballs to shoot. So if you don't kill the boss fast enough and you run out of cannonballs, you will just die. Yeah, so here we have some more sorcerers. I think I tried to line of sight this time. If you have like 2 mobs, the sorcerers aren't that dangerous, because they have very low armor value or HP or whatever. They die very fast. It's more if the sorcerer is part of like a 4 or 3 mob pack, especially if it has healers with it. The last part of the trash only has 1 new mob type, the Battle Mage. They cast Arcane Explosion and Blast Wave, so I focus those first. There's no mechanics to avoid here other than the polymorph, because you can't get sorcerers. The only thing that really changes in this part compared to the earlier ones is that the damage is just way higher, so I just basically constantly have a healing wave queued up. Apart from that, you just need to be careful how you pull. The patrol, there's no door before the patrol, so you can easily accidentally pull the guys in the alcove and the patrol at the same time. And you need to be careful about mobs running away and aggroing more. Okay, so the Archivist Galford, like, I should be placing fire resistance totems. I don't think I do this time, because the only spells he casts are fire damage. He casts burning winds or enveloping winds or whatever it's called. It's like a stun. He casts blast wave and he casts pyroblast. You can grounding totem the pyroblast, but I don't bother. He usually does pyroblast and then immediately blast wave, so you take a lot of damage. I resisted the pyroblast on that one, and then I'm affected by the burning winds there, which is a stun. As far as I can tell, the Archivist always drops 1 Righteous Orb. He can also drop Tome of Conjure Food 7, which might be one of the main reasons you'd want to do this. As far as I can tell, the drop rate on that is fairly low, maybe around 10%. Yeah, so Grand Crusader is just super simple. He just has some nukes and some stuns and stuff. I just try to keep myself topped at all times, because he has some nukes. And then once he becomes a demon, I try to make sure that my healer is like sort of at max range-ish, because he can cast Deep Slumber, which is a fairly long sleep, and he usually targets the healer. But I think it can be outranged. I usually pop cooldowns like Death Wish. I use Diamond Flask here, sometimes Recklessness. But yeah, he's very easy, really. So yeah, that's the run. I am unsure if this is useful to anyone, really, but I hope you enjoyed it at least. You can probably do this with a lot worse gear if you're 2 players rather than 1 person controlling 2 characters, because the healer has more agency in that case and can like try to help salvaging scuff pulls, use cooldowns appropriately and stuff. You can definitely do this with a paladin rather than a shaman. Priest should work, I guess. As to whether this is profitable, I put up a graphic here that shows what I've been getting on average. I've only done about maybe 6 runs of this, but I'm getting like 40 to 50 raw gold, around 6 stacks of rune cloth, 10 to 20 bone fragments, at least one righteous orb. On my server, righteous orbs are pretty expensive. I know that on others they're cheap. And then you get 8 blue items to shard, and you have a chance to get the Tome of Conjure Food 7, which I've sold for 300 gold. I think you can possibly sell it for more if there's not a lot of competition on your market. So yeah, that was it. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.